Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? And I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
It's time for the Sports Blitz, the only live-streamed local sports show in Arkansas with all the latest on the sports stories that matter to you.
Today on the Sports Blitz, we talk about the Baseball Hall of Fame. We don't talk a whole lot of baseball, but we want to ask today if moral and ethical issues should be considered when determining whether one deserves to be in the Hall of Fame or not. We'll also look at local high school basketball, got some new stats, also the Arkansas Razorbacks, and much more.
Live from the River Valley Leader Studio, here are your hosts, Mark Freeman and Weldon Braxton.
Welcome into the Sports Blitz Friday edition. Mark Freeman, Weldon Braxton in the RiverValleyLeader.com studios. We've already been having a very lively debate this morning about Baseball Hall of Fame. I think we sort of agree, but we're going to give you both sides of the debate today that we've seen on Facebook.com/RiverValleyLeader or RVL News and Facebook.com/SportsBlitz. And we want you to get involved in that. Today's Honda of Russellville poll question: should baseball's Hall of Fame be concerned with moral, ethical issues when determining who gets in and who doesn't? We've got 6 answers already on that one. I think this was going to be a hot button issue.
Great topic, Mark. But my first question to you is, what time did you get home from the Justin Bieber concert last night? I know you were there.
Yeah, I was up really late. I was screaming. I wish I could insert a lyric here, but I don't know any because I'm not a believer.
You're not a believer? Yeah, well, the Believers were out last night. Yeah, Mark, I mean, you look at this baseball conversation. We're going to get into it, but I just think it's interesting. You have so many perspectives. I like what you brought up about, in fairness, looking back in history in terms of what guys did in relation to what guys do now. I like that. Of course, you got NFL playoffs. You've got some great matchups coming up this week. Kind of toss-ups. I mean, I feel comfortable about a few of my picks, but there's some up in the air and a few other news and notes.
There is plenty of stuff that we're going to talk about. We've actually started gathering stats. Thank you to publisher Rick Fair, RiverValleyLeader.com, for the idea. Gathering some stats from local area teams, basketball teams, and we're going to pass some of those along to you today. We've posted them at RiverValleyLeader.com in our local sports section, so you can go check those out. We are proud to bring you as much as we possibly can in local sports every week, and we've got the best hoopsters in the valley. I like whoever renamed that for me. Points, rebounds, and assists right now. We've got steals and blocks and things like that probably in the future, but you can go check those out. The leading point, rebound, and assisters in the area. Lots of good athletes going on at every school in the area, and we don't necessarily have all your schools, so you can go to Mark. You can email Mark at RiverValleyLeader.com. Go tell your coach, tell your athletic director. I've tried to contact every one of them, I promise, and you can have them send me their stats, and I will include your guys. You may be seeing a guy at number 3 and think, wait, little Johnny down at this school has averaged more points than that. Little Jimmy's got more assists than that a game. You email Mark at RiverValleyLeader.com. We'll get that taken care of.
Yeah, that's right. And please don't send any inflated fudge stats either.
We will look it up.
We will look it up. If little Johnny should be number 2, we'll put him at number 2. But you're right, Mark, because a lot of times we, as fans, I know people around the area, they get caught up in their teams and watching their loved ones in their school, and you may not be sure what's going on. But if you can look at a little list and see, hey, this kid in Pottsville or Clarksville, Russellville, whatever, is averaging this and that, you may keep an eye on it. So I think it's good to keep stats and keep everybody informed.
There's a lot of local sports that are going on today, and we're about to have a new local sports sponsor. As soon as I get to go ahead to do that, be excited to let you know who that is and get that worked up. But until then, we'll just give you our local sports segment. Today, we're hoping to have Russellville head coach Cody Mann on the show at some point between 11 and noon. Don't really know when because we don't know when he's available. They've got Colors Day today, which is the basketball equivalent of homecoming for Russellville, and he is taking part in the festivities, for lack of a better word, today. They're at a pep rally, I believe, right now, and he's going to try to call in at some point. We'd love to talk to him. But they've got Little Rock Parkview tonight. Tough test for the Cyclones and Lady Cyclones at home.
Really is, Mark, and we've said it all year long. This two young Russellville teams. Remember the magical runs both squads were on last year. Senior laden roster as well. You got to restock and you have to rebuild. And I was at the Conway game a week ago, and the growing pains were there. There's some good young players for the Lady Cyclones and the Cyclones. They just have to mature. They played at Northside the other night, and things didn't go well at all. I told you about Coach Mann's post-game interview. To say he was distraught was an understatement. I mean, he was really disappointed in the way his team played. I know they will play with a better effort against Little Rock Parkview, but as you alluded to, Mark, it is a very stiff challenge on Colors Day. It's
going to be a tough one, but the Cyclones, looking at some stats real quickly, they've got a leading scorer who's in the top 5 in the area. It's Andy Campbell. No surprise. We've talked a lot about him over the last couple weeks. He's a sophomore for the Cyclones, and he averages 14.5 points a game. He's number 3, tied for number 3 with Devin Sims from Clarksville in points. He's also number 2 in rebounds, 7.5 a game, and he's got to be the straw that stirs the drink for the Russellville Cyclones if they hope to win tonight. I know they're going to have a pumped-up crowd. They're going to have a nice home court advantage, but with all the distractions that come with Colors Day, you've got to have your certain guys who just mellow everything out. They take things as they come, and they are the difference in the game. Andy Campbell's got to be the difference tonight.
Andy does. And I talked about him the other day in terms of, as he gets older, he's only a sophomore now. As he gets older, he's going to find ways to get his shots against different defenses. Certainly, when you look at the scouting report, you're getting ready to play the Russellville Cyclones, he's at the top of it. And you're going to do things defensively geared to stop him. I think as he gets older, you're going to see a little bit more like you saw from Gray Harris. Gray Harris was very effective in the post and, of course, shooting on the perimeter. And with Andy's size, he has a chance to be as effective, if not more, once he learns the subtle nuances. I look forward to watching him this year and the upcoming years.
Also tonight, the Pottsville Apaches travel to Waldron. It's not the most fun drive in the world, but they've had some battles with Waldron over the years. There's going to be some really good coverage from that game tonight. I hope to have that information for you tonight, rivervalleyleader.com. I will definitely be tweeting scores and stats. If you want to follow me at RVL_Mark, at Weldon Braxton, you can find out what we think about everything, unfiltered, just completely unfiltered, unadulterated fun as we get after it on Twitter. Right. We don't. Our thoughts are our own. They don't belong to rivervalleyleader.com or anybody else. Yeah, because we will tweet what we think. But at RVL_Mark, at Weldon Braxton, Pottsville at Waldron tonight. Clarksville traveling to Shiloh Christian. Seen a little bit of message board drama this week, Weldon. And I know a lot of people don't care anything about message boards, but when players get involved and coaches get involved and opposing fans get involved, it's okay, it's one thing. But when parents get involved, then it gets to be a little bit more drama. And I saw some of that this week as Clarksville fans going back and forth with Alma fans. Then Clarksville players get involved, and then Clarksville parents get involved. It gets a little deeper there.
This is what you touched on with me a little earlier, right? In the week is the same
and I mentioned this Wednesday because you might have noticed that I was stumbling all over my words. I was reading this message board where these fans from Alma, and not necessarily just Alma, but people all over the state, were name calling, for lack of a better word, and you can draw into that whatever you will. And Clarksville parents finally just saw it, heard about it, or whatever, had enough, got on there, start commenting, and you'd have to go check it out, fearlessfriday.com if you'd like. But there's the 5A message board, 5A basketball message board was just hopping on Wednesday, and that just adds a little bit of drama to the 5A West, like Clarksville needs any more drama, going into 2 state championships in a row and then moving up into one of the toughest conferences in all of Arkansas high school basketball, and then you getting a little bit more drama and stir the hornet's nest a little bit more. I don't know, Weldon, if this is going to be a good thing or a bad thing. I can see it from both sides for Clarksville.
Yeah, well, if you're a player and Coach Davis, he does as good a job as anybody, you just tune that out. I mean, you use it to motivate you a little bit, but ultimately Clarksville's going to win games because they're the better team night in and night out. I mean, I've always said this, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit it with a team like Houston. You have this bulletin board material and all that. It's great for a 2-minute adrenaline rush at the beginning of the game, but ultimately it's about how good you are. As far as the whole message board off the court stuff, it's tough. I would have to say I saw a little bit of it coming. You look at Clarksville, the way they play, sort of their personality, trying to mesh with what the 5A West historically has been. You sort of draw your own social conclusions from that. But I don't think it's a problem for the Clarksville Panthers. They're the best team in 5A until proven otherwise, and I expect for them to continue to roll.
See, and I think on the other side of that, they are the best team in 4A, and now they have to prove it in 5A. And that's where I go if I'm Coach Davis, and I think that's what he's doing. Looking at the stats that I told you I posted earlier, Dedrick Lee leads the area in points per game, 17.6. I actually thought that obviously 17.6 is down from last year. It was around 19 or 20. It's down from the year before where it was 27, and then it's down from his freshman year. So he's a senior, and he's averaging fewer points now than he did as a freshman.
From the other players around him getting better?
What it's from. That's exactly what it's from, because they have 5 starters averaging double figures. He averages 17.6 points. Pottsville's Michael Perry, 16.8. Devin Sims of Clarksville, 14.5. Andy Campbell of Russellville, 14.5. Trent Latham from the Dardanelle Sand Lizards, 13. Travis Cole from Pottsville, 13. And Freddie Lee from Clarksville, 12.5. 12.6 points a game. Then you go down to rebounds. Devin Sims, 9.8 a game. Andy Campbell from Russellville, 7.5. Dedrick, 6.7. Mark Gathright from Dardanelle, 6.5. And Tyler Weaver from Pottsville, 5.1. Then you finally look at assists. Freddie Lee, 6.3. Michael Perry from Pottsville, 4.8. Trent Latham from Dardanelle, 3. Luke McAnulty from Pottsville, 3. And Travis Cole from Pottsville, 2.2 assists per game. You've got some guys in the area who are, statistically speaking, doing very well for themselves. And the basketball teams, if you haven't been out to watch these area basketball teams, you're missing out. You've got some really good teams, and even at Russellville where they've struggled, they're still a young team that you can see develop. And you watch guys like Gray Harris his sophomore year, and you watch him all the way through, and you feel a sense of, man, I've really watched this kid grow up. And you start that way with Andy Campbell and Tony Jones, or not Tony Jones. What's the Jones get from Russellville right now? Is it Tony Jones?
Yeah, I think
Tony Jones?
Yeah.
And you watch them grow up. Here in a couple of years, you're going to think, man, look how far they've come. They were good to start with. Andy Campbell's averaging 15 points a game. They're good to start with, but you watch them grow up, and you feel like you get a little bit more attached.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough if you're a fan to go watch. You just hate to see the Cyclones lose, but stick with them. You'll go out and watch them on a few occasions this year. Don't be one of these bandwagon people that in 2 years, when these kids are seniors, I was always a Cyclone fan from the start. Don't be like that. I hate when people just go to the game when they think something just great is going to happen. Like, a couple of weeks when Bobby Portis comes to town. That gym is going to be full of people who's never seen a basketball. They just heard about the great coming of Bobby Portis to Cyclone Gymnasium, and they probably won't be to another game. Those people just they grind my gears, Mark. They do. They do.
Well, I understand people wanting to spend their entertainment dollar on the things that interest them, but yeah, you probably ought to go out and watch your local team anyway, just because it's something that they could use your cheers, and they could use seeing those people out in the stands. Whether you think it matters or not, a lot of those guys, they look up in the stands, if they see it's empty, they're a little less motivated than they would be if it were full. So that's a thought.
Because you got people who will not go to a game in 2 years, and it's one thing if you never go, then go, period. But if you just go, all the team's good, I'm gonna go to every game. Fair weather fans, it irks me to no end.
We're gonna go to break. Before we go, we need to let you know the Arkansas Tech Wonder Boys and Golden Suns fell last night on the road. The Golden Suns lost in overtime. The Wonder Boys lost a heartbreaker. It's tough the way that the GAC is set up, but the Wonder Boys and Golden Suns both predicted to do well in the GAC. They're going to do just that, but they took bad beats last night on the road. We're going to go to break. When we come back, we're going to look at the NFL playoffs. We're going to give you our predictions, have it on record so that you can throw it back in our faces later. Go and answer our poll question, our Honda of Russellville poll question. What do you think about the Baseball Hall of Fame? You can check that out. We got plenty of answers pouring in right now. Go check that out.
Set your sights on savings right now at Honda of Russellville. We're offering our best deals of the year on remaining 2012 Honda ATVs, plus special introductory offers on select new 2013 Honda ATVs, all with zero down and easy monthly payments with approved credit. Be sure to check out the all-new Honda Foreman 4x4, now stronger, smarter, and harder working. How about a side-by-side? Well, Honda's got you covered with the Big Red. Honda's Big Red offers a proven Honda engine, automotive-style Honda automatic transmission with no belts to slip or break. Come in for a test ride today at Arkansas's legendary Honda dealer, Honda of Russellville.
Hello, River Valley. This is Doug Duval with Arkansas's first Rack Furniture Warehouse, where we have the largest selection of recliners and mattresses in the state of Arkansas. Come visit us at 2609 East Parkway, the Rack Furniture Warehouse.
AR Sports present the 2012 River Valley Football Magazine, featuring profiles of local high school football teams, as well as college football previews and player spotlights. Professional photography accompanies top-notch writing throughout to bring you the best locally focused publication in Arkansas. You'll enjoy special tributes to local legends Jerry Aiken and Don Sevier, as well as an exclusive interview with Razorback all-time great Clint Sterner in this year's magazine. Available at fine establishments throughout the River Valley. Pick up your copy of River Valley Football Magazine today.
RiverValleyLeader.com is the #1 local source for instant news in the River Valley, offering HD video and live streaming along with top-notch coverage of all the news and events around the area. The River Valley Leader is the only place to go for all the information you need. Check out the newest local business featured on the site, as well as police news and coverage from important meetings, along with the personal stories, all at one convenient click. Check out RiverValleyLeader.com.
Live from the River Valley Leader Studio, here are your hosts, Mark Freeman and Weldon Braxton.
We're going to enjoy talking recruiting here in just a little bit when we talk Hogs. But before we get there, we need to address the Honda of Russellville poll question, and it has to do with the Baseball Hall of Fame. For those of you that didn't know, the Baseball Hall of Fame voted by baseball writers, and you have to get 75% of the vote to be, and you have to be 5 years out of your playing days to be eligible to make it into the Hall of Fame. This year, the baseball writers elected this many people. 0 into the Hall of Fame.
First time in almost 20 years.
First time in a long time that they haven't put anybody in the Hall of Fame, and a lot of people had some trouble with that, had some problems. You've got guys like Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens who are up for debate, and they've got their name possibly eligible in the near future, and these writers are taking it into their own hands to basically, in a lot of people's opinions, be a moral authority on the subject. And if you can't tell where I'm wanting to go here with this, we've asked today on the Honda of Russellville poll question, should baseball's Hall of Fame, and that's the writers obviously, be concerned with moral or ethical issues when determining who gets in and who does not? There's a reason that we're asking that question. We'll get to it here in just a moment. But Weldon, you've got guys who are in the Hall of Fame who are guilty of doing some of the same things that the guys who are not going to get in are thought to be guilty of.
Yeah, and just to look at this whole 2013 ballot, I think there was a stark contrast in the types of players you had, and both types of players had questions. You had a group of obvious people who would be in based on their merits, Barry Bonds, Mark McGwire, that group. And then you had the group of guys who were borderline pretty good up for debate, guys like Jack Morris and Craig Biggio and Jeff Bagwell back on the ballot again. But, Mark, you bring up an interesting point about what was going on back in the day. You know, we talk about popping greenies and doing these things that, you know, probably they're illegal now, and they're probably safer the way they're doing it now than it was back then. In terms of moral legislation, I look at character in two different ways. I look at, you know, off-field issues and your character within the realm of the sport, because I'm from the school that believes in keeping it on the field as much as possible. Now, if we're talking about a mass murder or something, I might reconsider. But basically, I look at your character in terms of on the field, and the example that comes to my mind is not even a baseball player; it's a football player. It's Michael Irvin.
Oh, well, I was going to go O.J. Simpson.
OJ was out there too. I'm thinking Michael Irvin because we know Michael, as Cowboys fans, had his issues. But in terms of a leader, in terms of toughness, in terms of somebody who really was the guy from a leadership standpoint. I know Troy was the quarterback. He was a leader too. But Michael Irvin was that dude, as they say. And he had his issues off the field, but there is no way I could keep Michael Irvin out of the Hall of Fame. That's why he's a great example for me. And I look at these guys, what did they do in terms of contributing to winning? You know, that's the issue for me as opposed to the whole morality off-field things as well. So what about their locker room, in-team context character? That's what I look at in this type of issue.
The reason that we're asking this question is because, like Weldon alluded to, you've got guys like Ty Cobb who are in the Hall of Fame, and it's very well documented. You can go look him up, that he was a racist, and he jumped in this. We were talking with Rick Fair about this before the show. He jumped in the stands to beat up a crippled man once. This guy was not a good guy. And then you've got guys who from the 70s and 80s who are in the Hall of Fame, guys like Mike Schmidt, who admitted, I've taken greenies to get through a tough summer, which are speed, amphetamines, things like that,
right,
to help them get through the tough summer months and to recover more quickly. Does that sound familiar? That's what human growth hormone, that's what, steroids will help your performance, but even human growth hormone is not necessarily a performance enhancer. It's just to help you recover. It's the same type of thing. You get injured less often, or you recover more quickly from those injuries. And I'm not, by any means, please don't say I'm saying it's great, go do those things. I'm just saying you've got guys in the Hall of Fame who are guilty of some way worse stuff, and it's in some junctures the same things. And then you're saying now, nope, we're not going to vote this guy in because he is shrouded by mystery. We don't know. He never tested positive for anything illegal, but we're not going to put him in. To me, it's kind of a catch-22, and it's kind of a tough situation where, who gets to determine what's right and what's wrong.
It really is. And, just zoom out big picture. Here's my Hall of Fame philosophy. And, Mike Greenberg, Mike and Mike on ESPN really turned me on to this point. I agree with it. I believe the whole Hall of Fame concept should take a backseat to something that's greater, and that's telling the story of your sport. And have it be more like a museum, because there's a difference between a museum and a Hall of Fame. A Hall of Fame, you're trying to pick guys that you want to lift up, pick out the guys you want to exalt. A museum, it tells your story, the good, the bad, the ugly, the points of contention, strikes, steroids, all of these different things that may not necessarily be in a Hall of Fame. I believe those things should be told. You mentioned the scenario of a father taking his son to Cooperstown, walking him through the Hall of Fame. Whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, I think that son needs to know about Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, needs to know about the strike in '94, all the ups and downs of baseball. If I'm a sport, I would rather my story be told to the next generation as opposed to just who's in the Hall of Fame. Yeah. I really think that concept should be explored.
Because you get a watered-down Hall of Fame, and you don't get the best players on the field. You don't get Barry Bonds in there. You don't get Roger Clemens at some point in there, and you're looking at players who weren't as good that are in there instead. And like I mentioned earlier, father takes his son 50 years from now into the Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, and he's walking up and down. You should at least put their, even if you don't have a bust of them in there and you just have, like you said, a poster with their history on it. And Barry Bonds, one of the best players of all time, he had this many home runs, asterisk beside it. He was thought to be a drug user. He was thought to be a steroid abuser. Whatever it is, people don't blot out things from history. You don't look at the history books and not read about the Holocaust because of how awful it was. You read about it, you know about it, you learn about it. Whether you choose to glorify it or not is a different story. Right. The Hall of Fame shouldn't necessarily be about glorifying what these players did as much as the fact that they had an impact on the game. And you look at the '98 home run race between McGwire and Sosa. It happened, folks. It brought baseball back, and I can guarantee you that there aren't baseball people right now who are saying, I just wish that had never happened. Because after the strike in 94, if that 98 home run race hadn't happened, baseball might still be in the crapper.
Oh, yeah. There was times when you talk about the Minnesota Twins were facing contraction. The Montreal Expos, who, of course, went on to be the Washington Nationals, were facing contraction. And it's a separate conversation what we're having. I mean, the Hall of Fame, this Hall of Fame vote was really interesting because you had two polarizing debates within this vote. The conversation we're having about the PED users, the suspected PED users, and then there's the other side of the debate, which we're not going to touch on as much because I think a lot of people get mad, is the guys who didn't get in just based on their merits, the Craig Biggio, Kurt Schillings of the world, who just didn't get in because people didn't think they were good enough. My take on it, I think Kurt Schilling should have been in the Hall of Fame. I really do. I know his regular season is what kept him out, but Lord, arguably the greatest postseason pitcher of all time. Obviously, we know what he did back with the Bloody Sock game. His whole postseason record is tremendous. I know people made a case for him and Craig Biggio as well. The only issue with Craig Biggio I think people are having from who I've talked to is, was he a transcendent player? He was really good for a number of years, but did you ever look at Craig Biggio and say, man, that dude is going to change time forever? And there are guys in the Hall of Fame who don't meet that criteria. And if you're a Biggio fan, you're probably saying, hey, that guy's in, why isn't Craig in? It's really a tough. Jack Morris heard a lot of case for him, too, with the Detroit Tigers, really an ace on that staff. So it's a two-part conversation we're having. We're talking about the moral PED issues. I know other people also looking at the guys who should have been in based on merit and their numbers. So it's really interesting.
It's a long conversation. Jay Keith said they can't change now. Been going at it for years. Shoeless Joe Jackson, Pete Rose, both first-rounders, both kept out for moral reasons. Terry Bartlett says, of course, baseball should be concerned with those issues. Renee Felkins, yes, our young boys today are tomorrow's players, and they look up to those guys. Jeff Bayless says, well, of course. Carolyn Rowley says, of course, players who set records by using PED should be banned from the Hall of Fame, and their records should have asterisks beside them. Keith Kluth says, and I like this one. Here is one qualification to be elected, and this is from the Hall of Fame itself. It's called number 5, voting. Voting shall be based on the player's record, playing ability, integrity, sportsmanship, character, and contributions to the teams on which the player played. Seems the definition of integrity is what is gray here. I feel these men know it would have given them an edge no player could achieve without supplemental help. So a double from Bonds' ends up being a home run. A lazy pop fly by Sosa or McGuire would be a wind-catching home run. Maris's home runs came against spitballers, not juicers. Throw the records out from 98 to 2009 or asterisks if they admit to it and they can share it. Lots of different topics, lots of different ways that we could go here with this, Weldon, but a lot of people, it seems, think that the moral issue is important enough to keep people from the Hall of Fame. Although I don't think a lot of those people are thinking about it from the vein we are, and that you've already got guys in who have done some of the same stuff, and it's kind of a wash in my opinion.
I want somebody to answer that because that's the key right there. I mean, I understand what people are saying.
Well, I think a lot of these people would just take those people out.
Pull them out? Ooh.
That's just what a lot of these
that's probably what they're thinking. I'm just thinking, man.
So that's a tough one. That's a tough one. All right, we're going to hit a break. We've got NFL related stuff here in just a moment. We'll give you who we think is going to win. We don't suggest you go out and do anything with these predictions, but I was 3-1 last week. I don't know what
I didn't really make any picks.
3-1 last week. We're going to try to go 4-0 this week and get these games exactly right. So we'll be back after the break with that.
Today, there are more than 20 brands of cars being sold in America. So to be noticed, Ford and Cogswell Motors have to go further than anyone thought we could. How does Ford stand out above the crowd? Not just with plug-in vehicles like the new 2013 Ford Fusion Energy that gets a projected 100 miles per gallon equivalent, but also with a line of gas vehicles equipped with the innovative EcoBoost engines combining power and efficiency, plus a full measure of technologically advanced features. We invite you to stop into Cogswell Motors today. We go further than anyone thought we could, so that you can go further too.
RiverValleyLeader.com is the #1 local source for instant news in the River Valley. offering HD video and live streaming along with top-notch coverage of all the news and events around the area. The River Valley Leader is the only place to go for all the information you need. Check out the newest local business featured on the site, as well as police news and coverage from important meetings, along with the personal stories, all at one convenient click. Check out rivervalleyleader.com.
Hello, River Valley. This is Doug Duval again at Arkansas's first rack furniture warehouse, where Leon and I are back in business. We have gallery selection at quality warehouse prices here at the Rack Furniture Warehouse, 2609 East Parkway, Russellville.
Set your sights on savings right now at Honda of Russellville. We're offering our best deals of the year on remaining 2012 Honda ATVs, plus special introductory offers on select new 2013 Honda ATVs. All with zero down and easy monthly payments with approved credit. Be sure to check out the all-new Honda Foreman 4x4, now stronger, smarter, and harder working. How about a side-by-side? Well, Honda's got you covered with the Big Red. Honda's Big Red offers a proven Honda engine, automotive-style Honda automatic transmission with no belts to slip or break. Come in for a test ride today at Arkansas's legendary Honda dealer, Honda of Russellville. Live from the River Valley Leader Studio, here are your hosts, Mark Freeman and Weldon Braxton.
Just going to go ahead and tell you guys, you're not going to like my NFL picks. You're not going to like the way I go about this. I've got this sort of fail-safe that I do where it's kind of wrong. I'm going to be happy either way because three of these four games, I'm going to pick one way and root the other way because the team that I like and the team that I would prefer win, I don't think is going to win, and then I'll be right either way. If the team I picked to win wins, well, I picked it. And if the team I picked to win loses, well, I was rooting for the other team anyway. So you guys aren't going to like the way this goes, but we're back to give you NFL picks. Mark Freeman, Weldon, Braxton in the rivervalleyleader.com studio. Weldon, the first game Saturday in the divisional playoffs, AFC matchup, 4:30 between the Baltimore Ravens and the Denver Broncos. Denver just handed it to Baltimore a couple weeks ago. We mentioned on Wednesday that Baltimore was without some defensive help, and they're looking to be at full or close to full strength on Saturday against Denver. I'll just go ahead and say I've got Denver winning this game. Peyton Manning needs this game.
Ray Lewis, the years of service that you've put into this league.
You put Ray Lewis on the couch.
I just can't say enough about what he's done for the game. He will be sorely missed. I respect everything he's done. And on Sunday, when he walks off the field for the last time as a professional, the league it'll be a tremendous loss because Peyton Manning and company will do almost what they did in Baltimore a few weeks ago. And Ray Lewis being back will help this Baltimore defense from a cerebral standpoint. Peyton Manning's even talked about how Ray Lewis can match wits with him. But this Denver offense, I believe, is clicking. I believe they have the weapons of Demaryius Thomas, who's evolving into being one of the better receivers in the league. Eric Decker's playing well. The tight ends, Dreesen and company, they're on point. This Denver Bronco offense can attack you in too many ways, but most of all, Mark, Joe Flacco on the road against Denver, they're going to need him to make some plays. He can't hide behind Ray Rice because Peyton Manning's going to put up some points, and Joe Flacco's going to have to match him. I don't think he's capable of it because I don't believe in Joe Flacco. Denver Broncos win.
I'm rooting big time for the Broncos in this one. If you've listened to the show at all, you know that I am a big fan of Peyton Manning, always been a big fan of his, and I hope that he's able to cement his legacy this year with an MVP, with another Super Bowl. I did pick Green Bay and Houston to play in the Super Bowl, but I wouldn't be upset if Denver were able to get there and win it because I do appreciate what I'm seeing in Peyton Manning. I seem to be one of those few people that, and I'm not trying to toot my own horn here, that, and I know Weldon's this way too, and a lot of guys,
go ahead.
that appreciate the greatness that they're seeing when they're seeing you. You know, people, I knew friends that didn't like Michael Jordan when he was playing, and I'm like, guys, you're missing out on the best player who's ever played the game. Right now, LeBron James, a lot of people, oh, he's crap. He's one of the best players to ever play the game, and right now he's my second favorite player that's ever played the game, and I'm on him a little quicker than anybody else as far as that goes. But Peyton Manning is one of the best quarterbacks. He may turn out to be the best quarterback who's ever played the game, and I appreciate what he's done and what he's doing. But like you said, Ray Lewis, sorry that your career's got to come to an end this way, but I hope you're getting the brakes beat off of you on Saturday at 4:30. I guess it's 3:30 here. The 7 o'clock game, the Green Bay Packers traveling to Candlestick to take on the San Francisco 49ers. This is the beginning of my 3 picks that are hedged bets, if you will, as I'm going to be rooting for the Green Bay Packers. I'm going to pick the San Francisco 49ers to hold home field, win that game, and advance to the NFC Championship game.
This is going to be a game. I mean, this may be the best game of the weekend. Is Aaron Rodgers 2010 hot? And what San Francisco 49er team will show up? The answer to those questions will answer this game. The San Francisco 49ers, at their best, I'm convinced are the best team in football. We as sports fans, we sometimes have short memories. We forgot when the San Francisco 49ers earlier this year were not just beating people, they were devastating people with that offensive line and that pass rush. Now, some things have changed. Long road trip, getting beat up a little bit. Lost to Seattle, had New England almost come back and beat them. They're rested. They're refreshed. I expect to see a good 49er team. My only concern is the 2 Smiths. Is Aldon Smith back healthy? And can Jason Smith be effective? Because I know Jason Smith won't be close to healthy. He's got a bicep injury. So if Aldon Smith gets double teamed because Jason Smith's ineffective, you can handle him one-on-one. I worried about that from a San Francisco standpoint. But to me, if the 49ers play at their best, they're better than Green Bay. But if not, Aaron Rodgers will go in there and win. I will lean very tightly towards the San Francisco 49ers. Would not be shocked if Green Bay won.
I'm obviously going to be rooting for the Green Bay Packers to win this game. I struggle to believe that the Green Bay Packers will be able to stop San Francisco enough. However, sometimes, like you said, when Aaron Rodgers is on, there's not much you can do about it anyway. So I can see that becoming a factor, and then it'd be a shootout, and it's the exact opposite game that I expected from San Francisco, where their defense plays well and their offense plays well enough to win the game. I expect it to be a close game as well. It wouldn't shock me if Green Bay wins the game, but for that to happen, I believe that there's no other way than Aaron Rodgers just being exactly on point.
And one thing that's going to help Rodgers, if the Smith boys can't get pressure on him, that's going to make Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers' day so much easier.
All right, third game of the week. It'll be Sunday, the noon kick. I'll be rooting for the Seattle Seahawks in Atlanta against the Dirty Birds, but I'm going to go Atlanta close.
Yeah, I mean, this is the one everybody likes, and I've said this before. I've given many speeches to the Atlanta Falcons. I'm not going to give another long one on this Friday morning, but I will say this. The Atlanta Falcons, at some point, you just get tired of people doubting you. You get tired of people saying, oh, the regular season only. Matt Ryan can't get it done in the playoffs. At what point, if you're the Atlanta Falcons, are you going to stand up and say enough is enough? We've got Julio Jones, Roddy White on the outside. We've got one of the best tight ends in the history of the game in Tony Gonzalez. We got a defense that can get after people, coached by Mike Nolan. This Atlanta Falcons team, they're good enough to do almost anything they want to do, but can they finally get it done? The Falcons look a little different to me. They look like a team with a little bit of an edge, a team that's tired of hearing people doubt them. I think that shows up against the Seattle team that everybody's kind of jumping on and picking them. I'm going to go with the Atlanta Falcons to win this game.
And we've got to understand that Seattle is a completely different team at home versus on the road. They've been able to win on the road, but they're a home-heavy team. They look completely different at home. And, I mean, who doesn't look different at home? But Seattle's got one of the best home field advantages in all sports. So, Seattle on the road at Atlanta, I'm going to go Atlanta close. Wouldn't surprise me at all, though. If Russell Wilson is able to pull this off, you might ought to just hand him at least a co-offensive rookie of the year.
He would deserve it, too. And the thing with Seattle, you're right, that home field is great for them. The good news about it to counterbalance that is their style of play does travel well. So even though they won't have that home crowd, at least, they're not an air-it-out New Orleans Saints type that has to be at home. That defensive toughness travels well, but will it travel well enough? I'm giving the Falcons an edge.
And the final game of the weekend, I think the San Francisco Green Bay one's probably the most intriguing. If not, Houston, New England is a very intriguing game. 3:30 Sunday. In Foxborough, you've got guys from New England already talking trash, not players from New England, but writers saying that the Houston Texans are another bye.
The 2 bye weeks for the Patriots.
2 bye weeks for the Patriots. That just is unbelievable considering how Houston started this season. I'm going to root Houston. I'm picking New England at home.
This game is about one player and one player only. It's Mr. Matt Schaub. Matt Schaub is somebody who I have put very little confidence in the entire year. I've said it before. When play action pass is not there and he has to just drop back and throw the ball, I believe he becomes very average. They're going to need him to make some key clutch third down throws. And this is what I said about Houston all year. I said they'd be a top 13 win team, all this in the regular season. But when it comes time, fourth quarter, playoffs, huge third downs to drive down for the lead or to ice a game, is Matt Schaub the guy that can pull that off? I have my questions. I'm going to still say no and go with New England, but they will be motivated and it will be a lot closer. Wade Phillips is going to change up some things on defense. I think he's going to get more physical with Welker and those receivers, and they're going to give him a challenge.
You know what you're going to get from Tom Brady every single time he steps on the field? You're going to get – you may not get the same level of performance, but you're going to get the same Tom Brady. He's going to have the same ability. It's just like Peyton Manning. He's not going to get dumb in one day. Tom Brady, he may make bad decisions. Breaks may go the opposite direction, but he's still Tom Brady. You're going to get the same thing from Bill Belichick. The wild card, I like what you said, Matt Schaub. You're going to get Arian Foster's effort. You're going to get the effort of one of the best running backs in the league. You're going to get the effort of Andre Johnson, one of the best receivers in the league. You're going to get Wes Welker. There are some wild cards, though. Matt Schaub, the big one in that game. I don't know that I trust him, but at the same time, I still feel like if you match talent for talent on both sides of the ball for both of these teams, this game should be a toss-up. It should be a 1 point, and you get the 3-point to 7-point advantage from New England for playing at home. And just the fact that they've been there and done this so many times that throws them over the top for me.
And Wade Phillips, again, I think he's a great defensive coordinator. They will be better. Unfortunately for Wade, he's going to have to deal with something he didn't deal with in the last matchup. 6'6", 6'7", 280-pound freak by the name of Rob Gronkowski is back. And that's a problem for a lot of teams.
It's a problem for everybody. Yeah, that's a big deal for defenses to have to deal with. Speaking of defenses, we mentioned on Wednesday that the Dallas Cowboys had fired their defensive coordinator, Rob Ryan. Reports out today that the first guy on the list, looking like Tampa Bay's old defensive coordinator, Monty Kiffin. Weldon's asking for him to take a senile test. Yeah. If he's all there, he checks out. We're all right with Monty Kiffin.
Yeah, I'm trying to be respectful when I say Monty Kiffin's done a lot in this game, of course, with Arkansas and everything. So I'm trying to be respectful, but I do need to see, because not only is he getting older, he's been around his son too, and I need to make sure.
So he might have gotten dumber.
Yeah, I need to make sure some of the lane didn't rub off on him. But if all those if those check out well, I would love to have Monty Kiffin. I mean, you know what you're gonna get. You know you're gonna get a front four that gets after the quarterback, not a ton of blitzing. Coverage wise at Tampa too, you're gonna be safe, not giving up big plays. And of course, his name speaks for itself. So if Monty Kiffin is still the Monty Kiffin of old, then come on board.
Yeah, speaking of old, Monty Kiffin is 72 years old, working on 73 here in a month and a half. So he's got, like you said, if he's still got the fire in the belly and the ability to coach up a defense, he's one of the best. So I'd love to have him as long as too much Lane hadn't rubbed off on him. God bless. I can't stand Lane Kiffin, and I need apologies beyond the grave to Al Davis, because I used to make fun of him for the slideshow projection that he made about Lane Kiffin, but that kid's about worthless. So sorry Monty, you screwed up on your son. We're gonna go to break. When we come back, Arkansas Razorback news. The Hog football team has scheduled its red-white game April 20th. You're going to get to see Brett Bielema's team take the field for the first time in spring scrimmage action. That's going to be a fun day. I always make a day of that. Go watch the baseball team and the football team on the same day. So that's April 20th. More on the Hogs right after the break.
I get up and nothing gets me down.
Hello, River Valley. This is Doug Duval with Arkansas's first rack furniture warehouse, where we have the largest selection of recliners and mattresses in the state of Arkansas. Come visit us at 2609 East Parkway, The Rack Furniture Warehouse.
Set your sights on savings right now at Honda of Russellville. We're offering our best deals of the year on remaining 2012 Honda ATVs, plus special introductory offers on select new 2013 Honda ATVs, all with zero down and easy monthly payments with approved credit. Be sure to check out the all-new Honda Foreman 4x4, now stronger, smarter, and harder working. How about a side-by-side? Well, Honda's got you covered with the Big Red. Honda's Big Red offers a proven Honda engine, automotive-style Honda automatic transmission with no belts to slip or break. Come in for a test ride today at Arkansas's legendary Honda dealer, Honda of Russellville.
Hello, River Valley. This is Doug Duval again at Arkansas's first Rack Furniture Warehouse, where Leon and I are back in business. We have gallery selection at quality warehouse prices here at the Rack Furniture Warehouse, 2609 East Parkway, Russellville.
Today, there are more than 20 brands of cars being sold in America. So to be noticed, Ford and Cogswell Motors have to go further than anyone thought we could. How does Ford stand out above the crowd? Not just with plug-in vehicles like the new 2013 Ford Fusion Energy that gets a projected 100 miles per gallon equivalent, but also with a line of gas vehicles equipped with the innovative EcoBoost engines combining power and efficiency, plus a full measure of technologically advanced features. We invite you to stop into Cogswell Motors today. We go further than anyone thought we could, so that you can go further too.
Live from the River Valley Leader Studio, here are your hosts, Mark Freeman and Weldon Braxton.
Apparently, as the Hogs basketball team was preparing for the basketball season, running up Cleveland Hill, they forgot to pack their rebounding and brains with them. I'm sure, absolutely sure, that fundamentals were worked on throughout the summer, and they're expected to be taken with you on the road to games, but apparently that one was left out of the suitcase on Wednesday as the Hogs traveled to Texas A&M and took one on the chin inexplicably against the Texas A&M team who had lost to Southern. Lost by 8. Hogs lost by 18 on the road to Texas A&M. Just an unbearable performance to watch. And I watched every minute of that game, and I was ready to cuss the whole time too, because the Hogs could not block out, could not get a rebound. They were out-rebounded, I think 51-26 was the last number that I saw, and couldn't hit a shot. Marshawn Powell, I don't even know that he was actually ever on the floor. Played 12 minutes, didn't score, had more turnovers than points. Really any other statistic besides fouls, and he was only one away from 5 fouls. So just an absolutely forgettable performance from the Hogs as they lost 69-51 against Texas A&M.
The loss was inexcusable. There's nothing you can say to justify this. And Mark, I try to do a good job of not being a prisoner of the moment. I realize this is just one of an 18-game conference schedule, but after watching that, you can't favor Arkansas on the road against anybody. I don't care if they come to Tucker Coliseum. It's a road game. I can't favor Arkansas over Arkansas Tech. And where do you begin? You talked about Marshawn Powell. And there's some players who just can't play with foul trouble minutes, as I call them. And foul trouble minutes are when you have to come out early in the first half, sit out for a long stretch, then come back in. Sitting out, it broke him. I mean, he couldn't get in the flow. He could do nothing. I mean, if that's how Marshawn Powell is going to play coming back from foul trouble, I just say leave him out there. If he fouls out early second half, he just fouls out.
Did you see what happened when he got his third foul?
What happened?
He went down to the other end of the floor and took a charge. Could have had his fourth foul then.
Yeah, that's right.
That's one of those things you got to be smart.
You got to be smart.
12 minutes, 4 fouls. That's not smart.
It's not smart at all. You mentioned the rebounding. There was so much ball watching. Ball watching is when somebody takes a shot and everybody on the floor just stands and watches the fly of the ball all the way to the rim, and then they think, "Oh, let me try to get it." When you should be getting your position when that ball leaves the shooter's hands. So much of that, and just the overall energy level. And I heard people on other media outlets talk about, is that the drawback of this style of play, is that it depends so much on energy that on the road you can't get it going. I just think that's ridiculous. I mean, I hate to live in the past, but you got to go back to the glory days. I mean, Arkansas, they played on the road, Corey Beck, Corliss, Clint McDaniel, and they didn't look as pitiful as this team did. I mean, flat out nobody showed up. I mean, I was looking for some leadership, some individual efforts. You got nothing. You put 51 points on the board, 24 at halftime against A&M. I don't even want to see you when you go down to Gainesville, Florida.
No, that's, last little time that I'm going to bag on Marshawn Powell individually today, effort and fundamentals, two things you have to take with you on the road. I don't want to say that the team wasn't trying hard, because you could tell that they were giving effort, but it was, instead of work smarter, not harder, they were kind of the opposite. They were trying to give that look like we're trying really hard, so they didn't get their butts ran off and they got off the bus at home. But they just, to me, it's baffling how little fundamental basketball knowledge that some of these guys have, that they're not blocking out, that's not the first thing on their mind whenever a shot goes up, go find somebody. They weren't in a zone. They were playing man-to-man defense, and they weren't blocking anybody out. And then they're trying to, that's schoolyard, I'm tired, so everything goes to crap, and I'm just going after the ball. And, it's boys club where there's 5 people around the ball. Every one of them wants to dribble it. Every one of them wants to shoot it. Nobody wants to guard anybody. Nobody wants to get the rebound. It was a bad road performance, and I think that instead of burning the tape, this is one of those that, and you heard that from the announcers on ESPN, this is one of those you teach from.
You do teach from. Mark, you may have the numbers in front of you. I'll give you a player that the numbers lied, because I think he scored a few points, had a few boards, but he made me mad watching him, and that's Cody Clark. Cody Clark got on my nerves. He scored some points. I don't know what his numbers are.
5 points, 4 rebounds.
Okay, so his numbers weren't even great. This is a dude who when you trap, I'm not trying to explain too much here, but when you trap, you want to hem a guy up, not let him out defensively. He opened up the trap so many times. Silly fouls, bad shots, just over and over. He was just pitiful. I mean, there's no other way to put it. This Arkansas basketball team, Mark, I've said it time and time again. It's not about beating Kentucky at home on a magical Saturday afternoon. It's about handling your day-to-day business on the road against teams like Texas A&M and South Carolina, because if you can't do that, even if you get a few big resume wins, it's not going to be enough to get you in the tournament, especially in a weak SEC.
And I know nobody was predicting Arkansas to win the national championship anyway, but what does it matter if they do get into the tournament and they're a 12 seed and get murdered in the first round? I mean, that's not doing anybody any good anyway. You average 80-plus points a game, and you hold the team to 36% shooting, 69 points. You expect to win. Bottom line is Arkansas did not show up. They shot 26% from the free throw line, 4 of 15, scored 51 points, just horrendous boxing out, horrendous man-to-man defense, just a lot of bad stuff that happened in this game. So we'll get off the Razorbacks back right now, because there was just nothing positive about that game. They've got to bounce back on Saturday. They look to do that and just redeem themselves. I picked Arkansas to win 10-plus games in the SEC. Now they've got to return to Bud Walton Arena on the Saturday against Vanderbilt, who just got hosed last night against Kentucky, and they've got to get a win 5 o'clock on Saturday. I'm worried, Weldon, that if Arkansas doesn't start it going in the SEC and pick it up, that people are just going to close the wallet, stop going to the game, stop caring, and teams like this that feed off that energy, you saw it against Oklahoma, you saw it to an extent against Syracuse, they're just going to say, you know what, I don't know that we're any good. I don't care to play hard anymore, and then you're in trouble.
And that's a good point, because I really feel like big picture when you zoom out, this is a crucial period for Arkansas basketball. I mean, Arkansas isn't just a coach removed from the glory era. We're now getting to be a few coaches removed from the glory days. Of course, Stan Heath, John Pelfrey, and now Mike Anderson here in year 2. And if Arkansas struggles again, the further you get from the glory days, the less momentum you have, the harder it is to get back up. I know Arkansas, as you touched on, they're not winning the national championship, but at the same time, they've got to show some promise, because, hey, 1994 and even 1995 looks like a distant memory.
You got guys like Moses Kingsley and Bobby Portis that were mentioned on the air the other day, putting an immense amount of pressure on some freshmen to come in and make a big difference. I'm looking at you, BJ Young and Marshawn Powell. You guys need to come back hone your craft, get better. You're not anywhere near NBA talent right now as far as being able to compete at the highest level when you can't go into Texas A&M and take care of business. So, Hogs, get it together. That's just the bottom line. We mentioned the red-white game taking place in football on April the 20th. The Hogs football coach is out recruiting right now. I mentioned on Wednesday that I had a theory regarding Alty Tenpenny from North Little Rock. I actually texted coach. They will not comment on individual players' recruitment, but I did ask him if he thought the Juwan Day commitment had any impact on Alty Tenpenny. He wouldn't answer, but it didn't seem like he thought that would make too much difference. I think that I might have been wrong on my call Wednesday that Alty Tenpenny was the big commit that Arkansas was going to pick up. He still may be, but I think the talk has shifted to a guy named Alex Collins, a running back who is a big-time 5-star running back that Charlie Partridge and Joel Thomas are going to be recruiting in a joint effort this weekend in Florida, I believe it is. So that's big news that Arkansas is going to be in the home of one of the best running backs in the country, and it speaks to what they're doing back into this recruiting class in another month or so, less than a month, about 3 weeks before National Signing Day. They've really got to get on it, and they're churning out some air miles this week between the coaching staff.
Yeah, I mean, Arkansas, they're reaching out at other guys, and the thing you notice with the recruiting right now is players who are committed to other schools are adding Arkansas to their list. Look at this offensive tackle, Joe Sanders, committed to Tennessee. Arkansas is hot on his trail as well. You mentioned Alex Collins as well. I've said it before. I believe Arkansas is going to get it done. You look at the guys they're on, and when you say on, that could mean anything. They may not like you as much as you like them, but at the same time, we're looking at about 25 4- and 5-star prospects that Arkansas's got on their radar. If they can just land a fraction of those guys, it really can turn a mediocre recruiting class into a really good one. And we talked about with Drew Brent earlier. Sometimes there was a period where you as a coach would come in year one and say, well, I didn't really recruit this group. They already had about 18 commitments. I sprinkled on about 7 more. Not really my class. I'll wait for year 2. You're in the SEC 2013. You don't have that luxury
You got
anymore.
coaches with 1-year contracts.
Exactly. It is a year-by-year basis. You have from day one, you have to go in, recruit your players, and Coach Bielema's had to tell some kids no that were signed up or at least committed. Unfortunately, he's got to get his guys from day one. That's what he's doing. I don't blame him, although it is a little nerve-wracking this close to signing day to only have, 14 commits? So
I think they've got now 14 or 15 guys who are signed up to come play for the Hogs. I believe they're not going to have any openings at the end. I think they'll get it taken care of. But the names and the stars, it's a little different than, and obviously the way they're going to play, the style is going to be a lot different. Everybody in Arkansas is breathing a big sigh of relief right now. If you follow anybody from the college and national media on Twitter, you can see that it's broken recently that Eddie Lacy, Alabama running back, and D. Milner, defensive back from the Crimson Tide, going pro, and we all say, ha.
And DJ Fluker, too. So,
Thank you.
Yeah,
you go ahead and join them, offensive line from Texas A&M. Go ahead and join them, offensive line from Alabama.
Yeah.
And let's let Arkansas come on back to prominence, because some of those guys were just thorns in the side of Arkansas.
Yeah, that's the thing with Alabama, the offensive line. If they can rebuild that part of their football team, basically looking at a better version of this year's team, unfortunately. A&M, I believe they've got 1 tackle went and 1 came back. One of the linemen.
Jokel's gone.
Yeah, Jokel's gone. So, A&M's going to be a force in the SEC again. At least they're coming to Razorback Stadium. Of course, Arkansas's got one of the toughest trios I've ever seen for road games at Alabama, at LSU, and at Florida. So, yeah, it's tough because I think Arkansas will actually have a pretty good football team next year, even though the record may not say so.
You know what? I think that they're going to be a little better than what we were led to believe.
Yeah, I think they'll be pretty good.
Tyler Wilson going, and Kobe Hamilton going, and Niall Davis going, and Dennis Johnson, and lots of guys that you've heard a lot about for 4 years being gone. But at the same time, they're going to switch real quickly to this Brett Bielema style. I think it's going to translate well. Obviously, it translates well because Alabama, LSU both do it. with great success every year. So we'll see the Hogs compete every game next year. Of course, they've got a brutal schedule next year, so that's going to have some impact on what the football team's able to accomplish. But, well, that's all the time we've got for Sports Blitz Friday. We'll be back on Monday. We'll look at some of these high school basketball games that took place over the weekend. Hopefully we're talking about a Razorback basketball win as well. Plenty more that we'll cover. Hopefully we're 4-0 on our NFL picks as well. So for Weldon and Maddie, our producer, I'm Mark. So long. We'll see you same time on Monday.